sometimes and I can't seem to find a light between the walls I built for myself right in my mind. And then you came over and you showed me love that I never had seen before. And now when I got you, it's all gonna be alright. Thinking about all the things we did tonight. What a time to be alive. Just you and I.
Hi creatives, love and light to you wherever you are. Now please let's make the skirt, and I beg you guys, please open up your mind to what I'm about to say. Now for the width of the fabric I have here, I divided my round hip by 4 and then I added 7 inches extra. My round hip is 42, divided by 4 gives you 10.5. Now the extra allowance I added to this is 7 inches, making my fabric here 17.5 inches. So on the fabric, as you can see, I have the right side of the fabric folded into 2. Normally we mark our measurement on the wrong side of the fabric, but for the purpose of these skirts, we're going to be marking on the right side because we're going to be sewing everything on the right side of the fabric. So what I will do now is show you guys the length, and the length I use is 55 inches. So the more you use on your length, if you go ahead and use 60, the more fold you have when you make the ruch on the skirts. So as for me, I used 55 inches because I felt that that is going to be enough fold. That's when I make the ruch, that's going to be like enough fold, and that fold is going to be okay for me. So the next thing I'm going to do is mark 0.5 inch line on the top of the fabric, and this is just to indicate the starting point. Now you guys, this is necessary for you to do. You need to mark the 0.5 inch, which is half inch. You need to mark that as your starting point because you need that when you're about to attach your band and we're going to hem the top of the fabric. You're going to see what I mean. So go ahead and indicate this line. So I'm just going to try and write the waist point. I don't know if you guys can see this. I tried very hard, but it didn't come out clear. So this is the waist point, this line here. Now I'm going to place my tape from this line and mark my hip point. My hip point is 10 inches. So I'm going to place it on the 0.5 inches line I came down by, and then I'll mark my hip point. Make sure you fold your fabric into 2 first, and then you're marking your measurement on the right side of your fabric. Now I have my hip point. The next thing I'm going to do is iron this out. I'm going to use my iron. Why? Because I want to make sure that the center front has that sharp edge. I just want to make sure that I'm able to know where the center front is, because I'll be marking this same measurement we're going to mark here. I'm going to mark it on the other side of the fold, the part now that is on the board, on my sewing board. Now I'm just going to go ahead and divide my round waist by 4, and then I'll mark it down on the waistline. Make sure that the line you're indicating here is really visible because we're going to be making a notch here. Now the next thing to do is divide the round hip by 4. So I'm going to divide my round hip by 4 and then I'll mark it here. I'm just going to make sure that the line is visible for you guys to see. Now I'll go ahead and connect my waist point to my hip. Now I'll just take this line straight down. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and continue marking my hip measurement on I'll keep marking it down to the length, 10.5 inches I marked on the hip line. I'm going to mark this to the end of the fabric, like to the full length. Now the longer your skirt, the longer you make the skirt piece, the more fold you're going to get when you make the ruche. If you want the fold on your skirt piece to be more than the one I have on my skirt, you can go ahead and make yours longer than mine. You can use 60, 65, is up to you. And make sure that the lines that you're indicating right here on your fabric is really visible. So now I have that sorted out. I'm going to flip this to the other side. This is what I meant. So I'm going to mark the same thing I marked here. I'm going to be marking it on this side of the fabric. So I'm going to flip my fabric to the other side like this. And from the center front, I'm going to go ahead and mark the 1/2 inch first, just as I did on the other side. I'll mark the 1/2 inch and I will indicate with a straight line.
I get lost sometimes and I can't seem to find a light between the walls I built for myself right in my mind. And then you came.
Now I'm going to place my tape and mark my hip point, just as we did on the other side. So you place your tape from the 1/2 inches you came down by and mark your hip points.
What a time to be alive. Just you and I. Just you and I. Only you can put the fire out. You.
So now I'm just going to divide my round hip by 4, just as we did on the other side. I'll divide my round hip by 4 and then I'll mark it down on the hip line. I'll divide my round waist by 4 and I'll mark it down on the waistline, just as we did on the other side. I'll go ahead and connect both points together so that I get the line. I'll make it visible. You really need to make these lines visible because that is what we're going to be sewing on, like I said. So make sure that you really indicate this with your chalk or marker, whatever you're using to mark on your fabric. Just make sure that the line is visible. Now I'm just going to take this line straight down, just as we did on the other side, because we need the line for when we are sewing.
Thinking about all the things we did tonight. What a time to be alive. Just you and I. Just you and I. Only you can put the fire out. You.
Now when I open it up like this, you can see that this is the line. This is my front piece. So this is the front piece, you can see. Now I have the line and I'm going to sew on this line straight down. So I'm just going to go ahead and notch on the waist point, like I said, on that 1/2 inch we came down by. I'm going to notch it to indicate that that is where the waists stop. Now I'm going to go ahead and hem all sides. I'm going to hem this part like this, or fold it in and hem. I'll hem here too. We're just going to hem all side minus the notch part where the waist sits. I'm also going to hem the sides like this. I'll also hem the base of the skirts. So just go ahead and hem every part of the skirt minus where your waist is, like the point where you notch that this is where your waist stop, because you're going to be attaching the band, the skirt band, from there.
Just you and I. Only you can put the fire out. You.
Making the back piece, I have my fabric here folded into 2 already, and I'm going to go ahead and place my front piece on this fabric. Now before I place the front piece, I'm going to indicate my zip allowance. I'm going to mark out 1.5 inch for the zip allowance. So after the zip line, that is where the front piece, I'll be placing the front piece from, and I'll make sure that the end side here meets together, that they are equal. So make sure you notch the waist too on the back piece. I'm going to go ahead and notch it like this, to indicate that this is where the waist sits. So for me not to confuse you guys, let me just go ahead and mark the zip allowance. I'll mark the zip allowance line, and then I'll place this front piece so you guys will understand what I'm saying. So I'm just going to mark 1.5 inch first. Now this is the hip. I'm starting from the hip first because the hip is where I always mark 1.5 and the rest is going to be 1 inch. Now I'm just going to rule a straight line, and this is the line. Now after this line, I'll place the front piece like this. And I'll go ahead and hem all side just as I was going to do for the front piece. I'll hem all side. So you guys, I have done this side. I sewed in the upper parts. I hemmed it already. So what I will do now is, see, as you can see, the waist parts, I did not touch it. That's why I had the notch. I did not touch the waist part. So I'm going to hem here. I'm going to fold this in twice like this, and then I'm going to sew it in, leaving the waist parts.
I get lost sometimes and I can't seem to find a light between the walls I built for myself right in my mind. And then you came over and you showed me love that I never had seen before. And now when I got you, it's all gonna be alright. Thinking about all the things we did tonight. What a time to be alive. Just you and I. Just you and I. Only you can put the fire out.
So here you have it. So I'll go ahead and hem here too. Like I said, I'm going to hem all side, just leaving the waist parts aside. Now I'm going to split the back piece into two. Now I'm just going to adjust the zip side. I'm just going to cut out 1/2 inch from the waist part down. When I get to the hip, I'm going to leave the 1.5 inch there, but then I'm going to continue cutting out the 1/2 inch when I go below it, 5 inches below the hip. I'll cut out the 1/2 inch straight down to the length, and once I'm done, my back piece is splitted into two. So before I take it to the machine to close the zip parts in, I'm going to mark the point where my zip is going to stop, and that will be 7 inches for me because I'm still going to attach the band. So 7 inches is the point where the zip is going to sit, and the rest I'm going to be sewing it in by 1 inch. So this is for my zip, and then the rest I'm going to sew this in by 1 inch. So now I'm done joining the zip parts, and this is the back piece. As you can see, the waist part is not hemmed. Where I have the notch is not hemmed. So I'm going to place the front piece like this, wrong side facing wrong side, because we're going to be sewing on the right side. That is why we have all the sides hem. So I'm going to make sure that the middle point sits with the front middle point, that the back piece, the middle point meets the front piece middle point. Then I'll use my pin to hold this together. I'm going to also hold the waist part where I have the notch. I'm going to hold this together too. And now I'll take this to my machine and sew on the lines we created on the front piece. The lines we created from the waist to the hip to the length straight down. That is where I'm going to be sewing. And now I'm going to be sewing 2 stitches. So after sewing in my measurements, I'm going to go out again by 1/2 inch, and that 1/2 inch is going to be where I'm going to pass my straps or elastic. So now after sewing in our measurements, just go ahead and create a channel for either your elastic or your straps. Make sure you sew on the line you have created, or you can go out a little bit by 1/4 inch so that you don't, the skirt is not too tight on you. Now the second stitch I'm going to be sewing, I'll go out by 1/2 inch, so I'm just going to indicate the 1/2 inch with my tape here so you guys see what I mean. I'm just going to mark 1/2 inch, but I'm not going to mark this straight down because I know what 1/2 inch looks like, so I know what to go out by. So I'm just making this illustration for you guys to know that you're going to go out after sewing the first stitch. You're going to go out a bit by 1/2 inch to create a channel for the straps or your elastic. And now I have my channel created, and like I said, you can decide to use your elastic for this part. You can just pass your elastic through, and then when you get the amount of ruch you want, you can just sew this to hold the elastic. But for me, I want this skirt to be adjustable anytime I want. I want to be able to make it short or long, so I'm going to be using straps. Now these straps I made by using the bias, and I'll be uploading a video on how I created the straps and how I attach the zip. I'm just going to create a short clip because someone requested for me to make a video on how I attach zip, so I'm going to upload that video separately, and on that video I'll be uploading also how I made the straps. It's just very easy. You just fold your bias into 2 and sew on it, and that is it. Very simple. So I'll just pass my bias through the channel I created to get the ruch I want. Now I'm going to, on the waist part, I'm going to be sewing the straps to hold it in place. I'm going to go tack it here to hold it in place. So I'll use my pin to hold it first down so that I can measure out this skirt and see the ruch, the amount of ruch I have, if it's up to my full length. So I'm just going to pin this down here too on the waist point. That's the straps. I'm just holding it in place before I go sew. Now I'm just going to drag my bias at the base and see the amount of ruch I have, and then I'll place my tape to find out if this is up to my full length or something close to my full length. And I'm just going to stretch it out a bit like this. Now to cut out the band, what I did is my round waist plus 5 inches extra allowance, which we can easily remove after attaching the band to the skirt. Now the width of my band is 5 inches. Now I have my hot iron here, and what I will do is I'm going to be folding 1/2 inch on the top and 1/2 inch on the base, and then I'll press this in with my iron like this. I'm just trying to create my band, and this is how I do it. So I'll go ahead and fold the base like this, 1/2 inch. Make sure your iron isn't that hot so you don't burn your fabric. Now that I'm done folding in the top and the base by 1/2 inch, I'm going to fold this into 2 equal parts. That is, I'll fold it into 2 like this, and then I'll iron it down. And this is how I always create my band. Thinking about all the things we did tonight. What a time to be alive. Just you and I. Just you and... Now I am done. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and attach the band to the skirt piece. And once I attach the band to the skirt piece, all I have to do now is sew my zip to this, and you guys, there you have it. We are done. So the video for the zip and the strap will be up soon. You guys, thank you for making me do this. I actually love this skirt. I decided to make a top that match this skirt, and you guys, God, I love my outfit so much. Please keep your requests coming. And when we vote, now we can vote and make something that everybody really wants and appreciates. Thank you guys for watching, thank you guys for requesting, and thank you guys for subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate you guys. You guys don't know how much I mean this, but I really do appreciate you guys. And you guys, this jacket just happened to match with this skirt. The jacket went so well with the skirt, and if you want to see how I made this jacket, just go ahead and click on the link in my description box below to see how I made my short collar jacket. You guys, I'll be seeing you in my next video. I love you so much.
Just you